the stars shifted. One by one, they vanished behind the steel shadows of warships. The darkness of space seemed to grow heavier as the largest armada humanity had ever built emerged from hyperspace. 900,000 warships, each one bristling, with weapons, engines glowing like fire in the void. Carriers the size of cities drifted into position, their fighter bays already opening. Massive dreadnoughts, their hulls thick with armor, held formation like iron walls. Cruisers, destroyers, frigates, all perfectly aligned, each ship carrying the flag of Earth. From a distance, the human fleet looked like a swarm of steel insects crawling across the stars. Up close, they were an unstoppable wall of power. No single species in the galaxy had ever seen such a fleet. Admiral Chiron stood on the bridge of his flagship, O's Vengeance, staring out at the enemy's home system. His jaw was set, his eyes cold. This was the day Earth had prepared for. Years ago, the enemy had struck without warning, destroying human colonies, burning cities, and vanishing before retaliation could arrive. Billions had died. The Galactic Council had begged Earth to stand down, to negotiate, but humanity had refused. Now, they had come to finish the war. Chiron's voice carried through the bridge. "Status report. All ships accounted for, Admiral," said Commander Voss, his second in command. "Fleet is holding position at the edge of the system, awaiting your order." Chiron's gaze swept over the tactical map. The enemy fleet was there. Thousands of ships, arranged in a massive defensive wall near their homeworld. But something was wrong. "They're not moving," Voss said quietly. Chiron frowned. "They knew we were coming, intelligence reports. Said they were preparing for this. So why aren't they moving?" The tactical officer zoomed in on the enemy formation. Their ships were powered on, shields active, weapons ready, but there was no change in formation, no maneuvers, no sign of panic or aggression. It was as if they were waiting. "Could it be a trap?" Voss asked. Chiron didn't answer. His gut told him something wasn't right. But his orders were clear. Engage and destroy the enemy fleet before they could strike again. "Send forward scouts," Chiron ordered. "I want close scans, and keep the rest of the fleet at full readiness." 4. Fast frigates broke from the formation, engines flaring as they sped toward the enemy lines. The bridge crew watched their progress on the main screen. The enemy ships grew larger in the display, dark silhouettes against the distant sun. The first scout reached firing range. "Scans coming in now," sensor officer reported. Carrion leaned forward. "Put it on main." The image sharpened, and the bridge went silent. The enemy warship was powered, its weapons charged, but the bridge windows were dark. No movement, no crew. "Scan for life signs," Chiron said. The sensor officer's fingers moved quickly. "Negative, sir. No life signs detected." Voss turned toward Chiron. "All of them. All of them," the officer confirmed. Every enemy ship empty. The silence on the bridge deepened. Didn't make sense. The enemy had not fled. They had not surrendered. They had simply vanished. Chiron forced his voice to remain steady. Could they be using some kind of cloaking on life signs? The officer shook his head. "No, sir. This isn't a mask. The ships are fully operational, but there's no one aboard." One of the scouts transmitted interior visuals. The bridge was pristine. Consoles still glowed with active systems. Weapons were armed, but the chairs were empty. A half-drunk Cup sat beside one of the consoles, as if someone had just stepped away moments ago. "Abandoned ships don't power themselves," Voss muttered. "Something's wrong here." Chiron studied the formation. "No, they're not abandoned. They were left like this on purpose." The thought sent a ripple of unease through the crew. Then the first strange thing happened. The lead scout's COMM signal crackled. "Admiral, I'm picking up." The voice cut into static. "Scout 1. Repeat," Chiron said. The static cleared for a moment. Signal. Repeating. "Up." "Can't then silence, sir. I'm reading a transmission." "Coming from the enemy flagship?" the comms officer said. "It's not aimed at us directly. It's broadcasting on every frequency." "Let's hear it," Chiron ordered. A deep pulse filled the bridge speakers. Not a word, not a voice, just a single, slow sound that repeated every few seconds. "You translate it?" Voss asked. The officer's brow furrowed. "It's not language." Chiron's eyes narrowed. "Coordinates to where?" The officer glanced at the display, then looked back at him. "To the center of the system, sir. Right through the heart of their fleet." On the main screen, the massive enemy wall of ships waited in perfect stillness, as if daring the humans to come closer. The pulse continued, and for the first time that day, Chiron felt something he hadn't expected when bringing 900,000 ships to war. He felt like they were the ones being hunted. The pulse kept repeating, slow, steady, calling them forward, on the bridge of Sol's vengeance. Admiral Chiron stood motionless, staring at the enemy formation. Every ship was still powered, still armed, yet empty. The tactical screen showed no movement, no heat signatures from crew, no signs of life at all. It was as if an entire navy had simply stood up and walked away, Admiral. Commander Voss said quietly, "If this is a trap, it's the strangest one I've ever seen." Chiron didn't respond right away. His instincts told him to turn the fleet around. But he also knew this was the kind of mystery that could change the course of the war. The enemy had slaughtered billions of humans in the past. If something had done this to them, humanity needed to know what it was. He made his decision. Prepare. Boarding teams, I want answers. Across the fleet, dropships undocked from carriers and cruisers, speeding toward the nearest enemy vessels. Chiron ordered Sol's vengeance to hold position while they investigated. The first target was an enemy destroyer, a sleek, black warship that had once patrolled the border systems with ruthless efficiency. Now, it floated in silence, Captain. Yara, leader of the boarding team, reported in as her dropship latched onto the destroyer's airlock. "Admiral, we have docked. No resistance so far. Moving to breach." Kieran's voice was calm. "Proceed, Captain. Keep your channel open." The hiss of the airlock filled the cum feed, followed by the clank of boots on metal as the team stepped inside. The first thing they noticed was the smell. It wasn't decay. It wasn't the rot of bodies left behind. It was clean to clean. "Bodies," Yara said softly. "No blood. No signs of a fight." The lights inside the ship were on, casting cold white light across the corridors. Consoles hummed quietly. The enemy's control panels still displayed navigation routes and weapon readouts. Everything looked as if the crew had just stepped away for a moment, except there was no crew. "Admiral, we're seeing personal effects," Yara said. Helmet cams showed images of uniforms neatly folded on chairs, meals left half-eaten on trays. A child's drawing taped to a wall inside the crew quarters, but not a single living being. Chiron exchanged a glance with Voss. "Check the logs." "Captain, I want the last recorded entry before they vanished." The boarding team reached the bridge of the destroyer. The command chairs were empty. Screens flickered with real-time data from the system, just as they had minutes earlier. One Marine connected a data spike to the ship's core. "Pulling the logs now, sir. It's strange. There's no sign of a distress call. The crew was active 1 minute. And then the record just stops." "Stops?" Chiron asked. "Yes, Admiral. No shutdown, no system crash. 1 second there. Here, the next second the ship is empty." Static crackled in the cum feed. For a moment, Chiron thought it was interference, till the pulse returned, slow, steady, louder than before. The Marines looked around uneasily. The sound wasn't coming from their radios. It was inside the ship. Admiral Yara's voice was tight now. The sound is coming from the hull itself. "Get out of there," Chiron ordered, before they could move every light on the destroyer flickered. The cold white glow turned faintly blue. Panels along the walls began to hum in rhythm with the pulse. And then, voices. Not one voice, but many, speaking in unison. It was not the enemy language. It was something else. The words were distorted, but clear enough to make the boarding team freeze. "Come closer." One Marine swore under his breath. "Sir, that wasn't in our heads. That came from the walls." Yara pulled her team back toward the airlock. "We're leaving now." But as they reached the corridor leading back to the dropship, the bulkhead doors slid shut. One by one, The doors along the ship began sealing themselves, trapping the Marines deeper inside. The pulse quickened. Admiral. "We've lost manual override," Yara shouted. On the Sol's Vengeance, Chiron snapped to his comms officer. "Get them out of there now." The docking clamps on the dropship released automatically, not by human command. The boarding craft drifted away from the destroyer, its thrusters refusing to ignite. Inside the enemy ship, the Marines' helmet cams flickered, then went black. The last thing Chiron heard before the signal died was Yara's voice, calm and strange. "We are not alone here." And then there was silence. The bridge of Sol's Vengeance was silent, except for the steady, low pulse echoing through the comms. The boarding team was gone, not killed in battle, not destroyed by weapons, just gone. Admiral Chiron stood at the center of the bridge, staring at the tactical display. The enemy destroyer was still there, floating quietly, its power systems active. But now it was drifting slowly, and it was no longer alone. Other enemy ships were moving, not toward the humans, but in small, strange patterns, almost as if they were rearranging themselves. "Sir," Commander Voss said carefully, "I'm getting more reports." "Multiple ships in our fleet have gone dark." Chiron turned. "How many?" Voss hesitated. 9 so far. "No, make that 12. They're losing all command functions and drifting toward the enemy formation." The comms officer spoke quickly, "Admiral. I'm still linked to the Raven's call. They're reporting complete engine failure. Wait. I'm losing them." The channel cut to static. A moment later on the tactical screen, the Raven's call slowly rotated and began moving without thrusters, directly toward the enemy's silent fleet. "Are they under tow?" Voss asked. The sensor officer shook his head. "Negative, sir. There's nothing pulling them. It's like the ship is moving under its own will." Chiron's eyes narrowed. That's not possible. But deep down, he already knew the truth. Whatever had taken the crew of the enemy ships was now taking theirs. "Send intercept teams. Tow those ships back before they cross the line," Chiron ordered. 2 human destroyers moved to intercept the drifting Raven's call. Grappling beams locked on. For a moment, it seemed like they might stop it, until every system on both interceptors flickered. "Admiral," the engineering officer shouted. "Something's jumping between ships through the grappling beams." Chiron's hand shot up. "Cut the beams." Now, the destroyers cut power instantly, but it was too late. Both interceptors went dark, their engines and weapons shutting down. Slowly, they too began drifting toward the enemy. Across the human fleet, panic was spreading. Captains were breaking formation to avoid contact with any ship that might be infected. Chiron could hear fragments of frightened chatter over the emergency channels. "They're taking my crew, not responding. We can hear them in the walls." One voice came in clearer than the rest. It was Captain Thorne of the Iron Saber. "Admiral, my men are hearing things. Whispers, they say. It sounds like someone they know. We've locked the bridge, but the crew as a sudden scream cut through the channel, followed by silence. The Iron Saber went dark. Chiron's hands curled into fists. He turned to Voss. "This is spreading faster than we thought. Can't let the main fleet get any closer. Should we fall back?" Voss asked. Chiron didn't answer right away. The logical choice was to retreat, regroup, and analyze what they'd just seen. But part of him knew, if they left now, whatever this was might follow them. Next time it wouldn't just take ships. The comms officer spoke again, voice tight. "Admiral, the signal is changing." Chiron stepped closer. "Changing. How?" "It's no longer just the pulse. It's layered now. It's almost like a voice. I can't translate it, but it's broadcasting to every ship at the same time." On the main screen, the translation AI worked furiously, trying to match the sound to known languages. After a few seconds, crude words appeared on the display. "Come closer. See?" Chiron's gut twisted. It wasn't a command. Wasn't even a threat. It was an invitation, and with each passing minute, more human ships were answering it, not by choice, because something inside their systems, and maybe inside their crews, wanted to, Admiral Voss said in a low voice. "If we lose too many ships to this, we won't have a fleet left to fight with." Chiron looked at the growing cluster of drifting vessels now halfway to the enemy formation. He had to make a choice: either cut the infected ships loose to save the rest, or follow the signal to its source and try to end whatever was causing this. Neither option was safe. But if he left this thing untouched, the war would end in a way no one could fight. He straightened. "Prepare the fleet. We're going in." Gasps rippled through the bridge crew. Voss stared at him. "Sir, that's exactly what it wants." Chiron's eyes stayed fixed on the enemy formation ahead. "Then we'll see if it's ready for what we've brought." The order went out. 900,000 human warships began to advance straight toward the enemy's silent, waiting fleet. Somewhere in the darkness between them, the pulse quickened. The order had been given, and there was no going back. 900,000 warships moved as one, their engines flaring bright against the dark emptiness. From a distance, they looked like a tide of light slowly washing toward the enemies. Home system. Admiral Chiron stood at the center of the bridge, watching the tactical map as the distance to the enemy fleet closed. On screen, the silent wall of enemy ships waited motionless, perfect in their formation. The low pulse still echoed through every ship in the fleet. It had changed again. It was faster now, like a slow heartbeat beginning to quicken. "Keep shields at maximum. No ship is to make physical contact with any vessel ahead," Chiron ordered. "If one of ours goes dark, cut it loose. Do not try to tow it back." Across the fleet, captains acknowledged. Everyone knew the risk now. Whatever was happening could jump from ship to ship as the human fleet crossed the halfway mark. The stars ahead seemed to fade. The sensor officer frowned. "Sir, we're getting strange readings. Light distortion. The background stars behind the enemy fleet aren't moving as they should." Voss leaned over the console. "Cloaking field." The officer shook. His head, "No. It's more like there's nothing there. It's like something is bending space itself." The distortion grew more obvious as they approached. Behind the enemy formation, the stars seemed to twist, their light curving unnaturally, like it was being pulled into a single point. Chiron narrowed his eyes. "Magnify Sector 14. The screen zoomed in, and the bridge went silent. Behind the wall of empty enemy ships was a void. Not black space. Not a shadow. A hole. A perfect, dark circle where the stars should be. Round its edges, faint arcs of white light pulsed in rhythm with the signal. "That's the source," the sensor officer said quietly. Chiron could feel. And now not just through the ship's systems, but in his chest, in his mind. The pulse wasn't a sound anymore. It was inside him. The comms officer looked up sharply. "Admiral, we're losing external communication. Long-range channels are gone. Can still talk to ships within visual range, but anything beyond that is cut off." "Expected," Chiron replied. "We hold formation. No ship strays from the line." As they drew closer, something strange began to happen. The enemy ships ahead started to move, not toward the humans, but apart, like massive gates opening. Slowly, they shifted aside, revealing the dark void more clearly. It was vast, easily the size of a moon, surrounded by debris. Except the debris wasn't rock. It was ships, hundreds, maybe thousands of them, from dozens of different species. Some were ancient wrecks, rusted and broken. Others looked almost new, their hulls still gleaming. All of them floated. In a slow, silent orbit around the void, many of those ships were fused together in unnatural ways. Metal bent and stretched as if something had melted them into one shape. Voss's voice was low. "That's not a battlefield, that's a graveyard." The pulse grew stronger, then something changed in its tone. A second layer, like a whisper beneath the beat. The translation AI struggled for a moment, then displayed new words on the screen. "You came. Come closer." A shiver ran through the bridge crew. "Admiral," the sensor officer said, "there's movement inside the void." The main screen zoomed in on the center of the dark circle, and there it was. Something massive, deeper inside the blackness, was unfolding. Pale structures like long curved petals slowly opened outward, each one glowing faintly with white veins of light. It was impossible to tell if it was a machine or a living thing, but it was big. Bigger than anything humanity had ever seen. Chiron felt it looking at them. He couldn't explain how. There were no eyes, no face, but the pressure of its attention was heavy, like deep water pressing in from all sides. More human ships began to drift. One by one, they lost power and silently glided toward the opening petals in the void. The alien wrecks already in orbit didn't move, but the drifting human ships were being drawn in slowly, as if pulled by invisible threads. Chiron's jaw tightened. All ships maintain distance. Do not enter that opening. Fire on any vessel, even human, that crosses into it. No one questioned the order. They had all seen what happened to the first boarding team. The petals kept unfolding. The pulse was almost deafening now. Then the translation updated again, you will see. Chiron didn't know what they were about to see, but he had the sinking feeling it would change everything. The petals kept opening, slow, silent, each one stretched out for kilometers. Smooth and white like the bones of some ancient creature. Glowing veins of light ran along their surfaces, pulsing in perfect time with the signal that it haunted. The fleet, since their arrival, the Sol's Vengeance and the rest of the human armada held position, their weapons armed, their shields at full power. But no one spoke. No one moved. It was as if the entire fleet had been caught in the same quiet, waiting breath. Inside the dark circle, the petals finally stopped moving. The thing they revealed made the enemy fleet, and even the human armada, feel small. It was a sphere, so vast that its edges faded into shadow. Surface shifted constantly, parts of it smooth like polished metal, other parts twisting with strange organic shapes. Great coils of black material wrapped around it, moving slowly as if they were breathing. The sphere wasn't floating in the void, it was the void. Every distortion, every strange bending of light was because this thing was pulling at space itself. The sensor officer's voice was shaky. Sir, I can't even measure its mass. It's not just huge, it's dense. Denser than a planet. It shouldn't even exist. And yet it did. Something rippled across its surface. The glowing veins flared brighter, and a deep vibration rolled through the human ships, rattling hulls and making teeth ache. Admiral, the comms officer said. The signals changed again. The translation, AI processed it, then displayed the new words on the screen. Come inside, join us. No one moved. Chiron's voice was sharp. Keep formation. Do not. Before he could finish, a destroyer on the far left of the formation suddenly powered forward, breaking ranks. Its engines flared bright as it sped toward the opening between the petals. Identify that ship, Chiron barked. The comms officer checked. It's the Halcyon. Sure. They're not responding to any hails. On the view screen, the destroyer closed the distance quickly. The moment it crossed the threshold between the petals, something reached for it. A black tendril shot out from the sphere's surface, moving impossibly fast. It wrapped around the Halcyon like a whip, piercing its hull in multiple places. The destroyer's shields flickered, then died instantly. Fire on that tendril, Chiron ordered. Several nearby cruisers opened fire, their heavy cannons lighting up the void. But the energy blast seemed to sink into the tendril without effect, like light into deep water. The tendril pulled the Halcyon toward the sphere. The destroyer's hull twisted and bent, its metal screaming over the comms. Then, before anyone could react, parts of the hull began to melt into the tendril itself, fusing with it. Oh my God, Wass whispered. Within seconds, the Halcyon was no longer a ship. It was part of the tendril. The black coil released what was left, and the fused wreck drifted toward the sphere's surface, where dozens of other shapes were already embedded. Ships, alien ships, human ships, unrecognizable ships, all welded into the sphere's shifting skin like insects trapped in amber. The comms crackled again. This time, it wasn't just the AI translating. Voices, human voices came through, layered and strange. It's better here. We are not alone anymore. Come inside. See what we see. The crew on the Sol's Vengeance shifted uneasily. Some covered their ears. Even though the voices were not coming through the speakers, they were inside their heads. "Admiral," the med officer said urgently, "I'm getting reports across the fleet. Crew members are freezing up. Stop moving, just stare into space." And they start walking toward the airlocks. Chiron's gut twisted, locked down all decks. No one leaves their post without authorization. On the view screen, more tendrils were extending from the sphere, curling through space like searching fingers. The petals that framed them seemed to vibrate and faint. Ghostly lights began to appear between them, hundreds, maybe thousands, of figures drifting in space. Voss leaned forward. "Are those people?" Sensor officer confirmed in a low voice. "Yes, human, alien. They're all alive. But their life signs are faint. Very faint." The drifting figures began to turn slowly, all facing the human fleet. And then, as one, they spoke in a single voice. "We see you now, you will see us." The petals started closing again. The black sphere loomed larger on the Sol's Vengeance's view screen. It was no longer a strange object in the distance. It was there, filling the horizon, its shifting surface blotting out the stars. The petals continued to close, trapping. More human ships inside. Admiral Chiron's jaw was locked tight. Every instinct screamed that they couldn't win this fight head-on. The alien machine was too big, too fast, too adaptable. And every moment they hesitated, it learned more about them. Voss leaned in, voice low but urgent. "Sir, we can't keep this up. We're losing ships faster than we can count. If we keep trying to fight it directly, we'll have nothing left to defend Earth." Chiron didn't answer right away. His mind was already moving, searching through every possible option, every weapon they had brought. There was one. One weapon so dangerous, it was meant to be used only if Earth itself faced annihilation. The Aegis lanced. It was not a single ship, but a system. A planet-killer cannon built into the dreadnought Hammer of Sol, designed to pierce through planetary shields and crack open a world's crust. It had never been fired in real combat. The weapon's charge required an enormous amount of time, and the firing ship had to remain perfectly still during the process. That meant leaving it exposed. Chiron turned to Voss. "Signal the Hammer of Sol. Prepare the lance."
Please.
Voss stared. "At him, sir. If we charge that thing here in the middle of this fight, the alien will see it coming. He'll throw everything at it." Chiron's eyes were cold. "That's why we're going to make sure it's looking somewhere else." The plan came together quickly, but it was brutal. Half the fleet would break away and draw the alien's attention, pulling its tendrils and puppet ships as far from the Hammer of Sol as possible. Those ships would not be coming back. Chiron opened a fleet-wide channel. "Oh, captains, this is the Admiral. We're making our stand here. The enemy's core is our only target. We're going to open a path and hold it long enough for the Hammer of Sol to fire the lance. Some of you will not return. But know this, if we succeed, we end this here, before it can ever reach Earth." There was silence for a long moment. Then voices began to answer. "One by one, understood, Admiral. For Earth, we'll hold the line." The orders went out. The Hammer of Sol fell back to the center of the formation, its massive charging coils already beginning to glow. Around it, a protective ring of battleships formed, the last shield between the weapon and the alien. On the flanks, the Chosen. Ships moved forward, guns blazing. Dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, hundreds of them, surged into the enemy's face. Drawing fire, slamming into puppet ships, sacrificing themselves in brutal close-quarters combat, the void lit up. With their fury, the alien reacted exactly as Chiron had predicted. Tendrils whipped toward the attacking flank, wrapping around ships and tearing them apart. Puppet vessels swarmed the attackers, cutting them off from retreat. The sphere's main weapon ports turned toward the distraction, pouring white beams into the chaos. "Status on the lance?" Chiron demanded. The comms officer replied. 30% charged, sir. Still climbing." The distraction fleet fought like demons. The Iron Fist rammed an enemy battleship at full speed, detonating its reactor and taking 3 others with it. The Vanguard's glory was wrapped in 2 tendrils, but even as its hull was crushed, it fired all guns directly into one of the sphere's glowing veins, making it flicker and dim. 60% charged, the comms officer reported. They're starting to notice. Indeed, tendrils were now turning toward the Hammer of Soul. The protective ring of battleships opened fire, hammering them with concentrated salvos, but the alien kept coming. 80% charged. Chiron's voice was steel. Hold them. Tendril broke through the ring, slamming into a defending cruiser and tearing it in half. Another wrapped around a destroyer, hurling it into the Hammer of Sol's shields with bone-shaking force. The dreadnought shuddered but held. 95%. Wass's eyes flicked between the screens. If they hit the lances? Barrel before it fires, they won't. Chiron cut him off. The last percentage ticked up. The Hammer of Sol's coils blazed with white light. The glow so bright it cast shadows across the bridge of every nearby ship. Target locked. The gunnery officer on the Hammer of Sol confirmed. Firing in 3, 2. The alien must have realized the danger. Every tendril, every puppet ship, every beam from the core turned toward the Hammer of Sol. One the Aegis lance fired. It wasn't a beam. It was a spear of pure, condensed energy, brighter than a sun, screaming through the void faster than thought. It tore straight through the petals, ripping apart 3 tendrils in its path. It struck the sphere's surface, dead center, for the first time since the battle began. Alien screamed. A soundless, crushing wave of force rippled out, rattling. Every human ship, the sphere's surface cracked, light pouring from the wound. But even as the crew cheered, Chiron's eyes stayed locked on the view screen. He knew it wasn't over. Not yet. The petals began to close. Not slowly this time. The great white arcs of bone-like metal swung inward like the jaws of a trap, and the black tendrils shot outward faster than before. All ships' evasive maneuvers. Admiral Chiron's voice thundered across the fleet channels. Engines roared. The human armada scattered into combat formations, massive dreadnoughts moving to the front while smaller ships darted between them like darting. Fish avoiding predators, the tendrils didn't. Aim for the largest ships first. They went for the isolated. On the far right flank, the frigate Stormbreaker tried to break away, engines burning hot, but a tendril lashed out, wrapping around its midsection. The frigate fired all weapons, pounding the tendril with missiles and plasma blasts, but nothing slowed it. The hull groaned under the pressure, armor plates snapping off like dried leaves in the wind. The tendril yanked, and the Stormbreaker disappeared into the shadows between the petals. Target tendrils. Only, Chiron barked, ignore the core until we find a weakness. A wave of weapons fire erupted from the human fleet. Cannons, railguns, plasma beams. The void lit up with the fury of 900,000 warships. Some tendrils recoiled under the onslaught, burning in sections, but they regenerated almost instantly. Pieces of black material floated away, only to dissolve into dust and vanish. On the tactical screen, new red markers appeared. Enemy ships, the ones that had been drifting, abandoned earlier, were suddenly moving again. Their weapons came online, and they began firing. Not at the alien sphere, but at the humans. They're using the empty ships as weapons, Voss realized. The worst part was, some of those enemy ships were now human. The Iron Saber, captured earlier, turned its guns on its former allies, tearing into the side of a human battleship before it was blown apart by 3 destroyers working together. Chiron's hands tightened on the armrest of us, his command chair. They're not just absorbing ships, they're puppeting them. The petals closed halfway, locking more tendrils in place. Dozens now lashed outward at once, each moving in perfect coordination. They didn't just grab ships, they split them open, tearing carriers in half, stripping engines from cruisers, peeling the armor off dreadnoughts like skin from bone. In the middle of the chaos, the comms officer shouted, "Sir, Signal is no longer just in the systems. It's inside our crews. People are changing. Chiron snapped. Details. They stop following orders. They move like they're sleepwalking. Some are overriding safeties, lowering shields, shutting down engines. It's like they want to be taken. Boss swore. Under his breath, it's in their minds. The sensor officer interrupted, voice tense. Admiral, the sphere is shifting. Parts of it are opening. The screen zoomed in on the alien core. Sections of its surface were peeling back, revealing long, black barrels, weapon ports. Before Chiron could react, beams of white energy lanced out from the core. They didn't explode on impact, they cut. A single beam sliced through 3 human cruisers in one pass, each ship drifting apart in molten fragments. Scatter pattern Delta, Chiron ordered. Make them work for every shot. The fleet broke formation, ships weaving and diving between each other, exchanging fire with the reanimated enemy vessels and dodging the tendrils. The void became a storm of light, shadow, and fire. In the chaos, the battleship Titan's Wrath scored a lucky hit, driving a railgun slug deep into one of the core's glowing veins. The vein dimmed, and the tendril closest to it recoiled violently, losing strength. "Mark that," Chiron shouted. "Those veins are weak points. Target them." The fleet concentrated fire on the glowing lines running along the petals and tendrils. Each successful strike made the alien machine shudder, its movement slowing briefly before it regenerated. But the cost was heavy. For every tendril they destroyed, 5 more ships were lost. The black sphere wasn't weakening, it was adapting. On the view screen, one massive petal finally closed completely, sealing behind a group of captured ships. Chiron knew what that meant. They were gone, absorbed. The coms crackled again. But this time it wasn't an order or a distress call. It was a voice, deep and layered with countless others. "You fight. You hurt us. We will learn. We will take you." Chiron realized then. The thing didn't just want to destroy them. It wanted to understand them, and to do that, it would take as many humans as it could. The Aegis Lance's shot had torn deep into the alien sphere, carving a glowing wound that split its surface like shattered glass. Chunks of its black armor floated away, glowing faintly before dissolving into dust. On the bridge of the Sols, Vengeance, the crew erupted into cheers. But Admiral Chiron didn't join them. His eyes stayed locked on the wound. He had fought enough battles to know when an enemy was dead. And when it was still breathing, the sphere was still breathing. Glowing wound pulsed. Once, twice, and then it began to close. "No," Voss whispered. "It's healing." "Not fast enough," the sensor officer said, but her voice shook. "The wound is slowing it down." A second shot could. The rest of her words were drowned out by a deep vibration that rolled through the fleet. The sphere's petals snapped fully open again, but this time they were not inviting. They were weapons. From the base of each petal, dozens of new tendrils shot outward at once, moving faster than the human ships could track. They didn't grab and pull now, they pierced. Ships were skewered through their cores, reactors rupturing instantly. The Falcon's Pride, a heavy cruiser, exploded in a white flare as 3 tendrils punched straight through its hull. The comms officer shouted, "Sir, they're targeting the Hammer of Sol. Multiple tendrils incoming. Their battleships guarding." It fired in unison, but it wasn't enough. One tendril tore straight through the Defiant, shattering it into spinning debris. Another wrapped around the Stormlight, crushing it until its hull split open. The third tendril slammed into the Hammer of Sol's shields, flaring them white. The massive dreadnought shook violently. "Charge the lance again," Chiron ordered. "They can't," Voss said quickly. "Capacitors are burned out from the first shot. It'll take at least 15 minutes. We don't have 15 minutes. Chiron growled. On the tactical screen, the alien sphere shifted. The wound in its surface stopped closing, not because it couldn't heal, but because something inside was moving. The cracked plating peeled away like a shell breaking, revealing a swirling, blinding mass of white light. The translation AI scrambled to process the incoming signal. When the words appeared, they made the bridge go silent. "You cannot kill what is already inside you." A cold realization sank into Chiron's mind. The sphere wasn't just attacking from the outside. It was inside their ships. It's inside their people. Every whisper, every pulse they had heard since entering this system, it had been burrowing into them, waiting for the moment to strike. Across the fleet, reports came flooding in. Crew walking into space. Weapons locking onto Allied. Ships without command. Engine shutdowns spreading. The alien wasn't just breaking their fleet, it was turning it K. Ira knew there was only one choice left. He opened a secure channel to the Hammer of Soul. This is Chiron. You have one last task. Overload the Lance's core. Direct it into the sphere's wound. There was a long pause. Then the Hammer of Soul's captain spoke. That will destroy us. It will save everyone else, Chiron said quietly. Captain didn't argue. For Earth. On the view screen, the Hammer of Soul turned slowly toward the alien core, the wounded section still glowing faintly. Tendrils shot toward it, but the ship's escorts rammed them head-on, detonating their reactors in blinding flashes to clear a path. Core overload in 60 seconds, the captain reported. The sphere seemed to sense the danger, all its tendrils, pulled back from the other ships, focusing entirely on the Hammer of Soul. Puppet vessels, human and alien alike, threw themselves at it, slamming into its hull. But the dreadnought kept moving forward. 30 seconds. Its shields collapsed.
Armor.
Plates peeled away. Fires raged along its decks. 10 seconds. The sphere's central light flared. A beam of white energy lancing toward the Hammer of Soul. It punched through the dreadnought's bow, cutting halfway through its body. But still, it kept going. 5 seconds. The Hammer of Soul reached the wound. A blinding flash erupted, so bright it turned the void to white. For an instant, every ship's sensors went dead. When the light faded, the sphere was gone.
Help.
Not destroyed. Not shattered. Gone. Only a spreading cloud of black dust remained. Slowly drifting where it had been, the fleet floated in silence. The survivors, barely half of the 900,000 ships that had come, were battered, burning, but alive. On the bridge of the Sol's Vengeance, Voss looked at Chiron. Do you think it's really dead? Chiron stared at the cloud of dust, watching as faint pulses of white light shimmered inside it, fading. Then, for just a moment, returning, his voice was quiet but certain. No. And next time, it won't wait for us to come to it.